you got to be vulnerable to a certain degree, right? I mean, and I'm not trying to be touchy-feely, but
no,
you know,
I have no problem.
I think you have to be willing to say, hey, I don't know, but I'll find out, right?
Yes.
And I think people respect that candor of just being real with somebody else. And I think what I've gotten better at as I've gotten older is the law is crazy, right? I mean, there's so much for us to know. I've gotten really good at telling potential clients going, I know nothing about that, and I'm not going to learn anything about that. But there are tons of professionals that you can go to find out about that, you know?
I'm not that guy.
You got a tax question? I got plenty of people for you, but I'm not getting involved.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Payments Experts Podcast, a podcast of Global Legal Law Firm. We hope you enjoy this episode.
All right, JJ, we're going to jump in. So that's payment, by the way, not payment, but payment, M-I-N-T. I actually like to play on words. It's really interesting, too, because JJ's based in Illinois, but his address, he lives on San Diego Place, which I think is the greatest thing ever because we happen to be located in San Diego. So when I saw that, I was, oh, this is perfect, man. We're made for one another. So JJ's been in the space for a while. He's got kind of an interesting story. JJ is a people person. And the thing that I really like about our podcast is that we get normal players in the space from, I mean, and it's everybody, right? I mean, we get, digital transactions and publications. We get the feet on the street, which is more like JJ. We get ancillary service providers. But the great part about having somebody like JJ on is he's a sales guy and he runs sales, and he didn't start in payments. He found his way to payments, which I think is usually a more successful avenue. Like I think when you start in payments, you may or may not be a great salesperson, but when you do something else and you understand sales and you transition, I think generally that is something where people become very successful. So just to get us going, just tell us about your background, not just in payments, but how you started in business and then how you transitioned to payment.
Sure. Well, first, thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Been looking forward to this. I started in payments in this industry in about 2018. I'll kind of backtrack real quick. I was in the construction industry. I owned a construction company for about 18-ish years, and sick and tired of the grind. Was fishing with a good buddy of mine that had been and still is in this industry for a very long time. And he's like, hey, man, why don't you hop in the car one day with me and just see what I do? So I did. And that was the only time I was in the car with him. And I was actually shocked. Like, you know what? I think I can do this. Running a construction company, very similar in sales. Obviously every sales job's a little different, but very similar. But I was burnt out. Couple guys on the team, you're taken from Peter to pay Paul, mostly residential, some light commercial. And then once I started doing this part-time, and at the end of 2018, I realized, I'm like, wow, this is interesting. And I think I may have found a different avenue of making a living. 2019, I just kind of just jumped into it. I sold my construction company. COVID hit. And a really weird scenario in my life happened. I really, after 2019, COVID hit, I really didn't do much in this industry. I had a little bit of residuals. And then right out of COVID, it was January, I caught COVID. And literally the third week of January, I told my wife, I'm like, I gotta shit or get off the pot. I got to do something. Either I go do this or I go do something else, but I have to do something full time and take it serious. And I just started from there. Within that first year, I not only beat my expectations, I shot for the moon. As my good buddy would say, it's like shoot for the moon and reach for the stars. And I hit both of them. And then year two, I exceeded from there, and it just kept growing. Well,
what's been to me coming in from a whole new space? I mean, when I train employees in payments, a lot of times it's easier to understand where we are by understanding where we came from. And so I use different methods of trying to train people. And really, I try to give people historical payments from my perspective of when I first got involved, and that's like 20 years ago, and it's monumentally shifted. What was probably the biggest learning curve as you came into the space trying to determine? I mean, what are the top 10 biggest learning curves? But no, I get it. But as far as like, making a transition into this, I mean, look, people want relationships. That's my feeling about it, right? Like, and I don't care what business you're running. People want relationships. They're not always going to like what you have to say, but they want somebody that's going to deliver a message with their best, with good intent and their best outcome in mind, right? And so, and sometimes that's literally like walk away, or you know what, you're in a great situation. You don't need me. And it's building that rapport, even if it doesn't pay dividends till later on. But, so some people have that natural ability. That seems like you every time I talk to you, you're easy with the gift of gab. But as far as like coming into a space that was really unfamiliar, like what were the things that you found difficult and kind of ways that you overcame those obstacles?
It's a great question. There was a lot of, in my past career, there was a lot of having to, my mind's working like an engineer. So I had to figure out problems. I had to constantly learn. And that was really, really I love learning and I love figuring stuff out. But I also, that's one part. The other part, I had to deal with customers, whether we had, I had 2 or 3 jobs, a bathroom, a kitchen. It was constantly having to keep, you're dealing with other people's money in their home, and it's a very difficult situation. So I feel like the customer service part of it and dealing with customers from start to finish was easy for me. And when I got brought into this industry, I'd feel like that was the easiest part. Honestly, I was in 2-3 homes a day, 7 days a week. When I actually had to start, knocking on doors, walk into a business owner, ask if the business owner's there. There were times I'd drive around the block 3, 4, 5 times. I'd sit there for 20 minutes before I walked in the door. I don't know what it was, but it was very difficult. It was a total different interaction to have to get out of the car, go in there. Hey, is the business owner here? Right. That was intimidating. It was very intimidating.
You gotta be Teflon. I mean, it's those instances. It's like all young attorneys going into a courtroom. You gotta go in and understand that you're not going to win, but James, my partner, says it really well. Every trial is a coin flip, and every client wants to ask you, look, I can say the facts are on your side, the law is on your side, the facts and law are on your side. But at the end of the day, at the presentation, every trial is a coin flip, and it took me a long time to understand what he was saying. And I think it takes defeats to understand that sometimes that's going to happen. And really, I chalk up whether it was apprehension or whatever it was, that, that waiting, I think it's just the ability to try to, put on your Teflon self and get in front of someone.
I agree. That's a great way of explaining it. It took a minute. And once I started getting into that groove, it just became easy. I'd have to say the hardest thing was, you got to figure out the basics, kind of what to say, what you're doing. I was told, you don't need to know everything about the technology. But in my mind, I needed to know, because that how could I approach these business owners and not know anything about the products that I'm trying to help them with? And I wasn't really trying to sell them. I was truly trying to help people. And how do you do that? How do you have a conversation and not know anything of what you're talking about? So that began to snowball immediately. Once I got comfortable with talking to these business owners, I think that was the biggest hiccup. And I actually, and I had an agent advocate, I'm not going to say any names, very specifically, who was by my side. She was very tough on me. I thought she was rude at first, but she wasn't. She was awesome, and she answered a billion questions anytime. I asked a lot of questions, and if I could say a name, I would, but I don't want to put anyone on the spot. She was awesome. She really helped me. She helped me from just simple terminals to knowing how to utilize them, doing your own installs, and progressively within a very short period of time, all of these pieces of the puzzle just started kind of falling into place, right? You're learning how to speak to people. You're learning, trying to figure out what their needs are, trying to figure out if you can even be of any help. Going into what the product is that they may need, going into how to install the product. I can go on and on and on. All these things started.
Well, I think that's where knowledge comes in, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's, having a conversation, getting 5 minutes in and really understanding A, what's the value prop for in the mind of the merchant, and then B, what's the value prop that you see objectively that they may need by looking at a business. I mean, I think that's where having experience as a business owner, I think that helps me in my job all the time. Like, yes, I'm a lawyer and this is what I do, but I run a business, and including like this podcast is part of it, right? I mean, this is marketing for us. And so understanding, from my perspective, at least, how to connect on a level other than just the service that I'm providing. I think it's really important. And it's much easier to just, I think what you're going back to driving around the block a few times, I think to be a good salesperson or to effectively provide a service or product, and if you're a salesperson, you're really providing a service, you got to be vulnerable to a certain degree, right? I mean, and I'm not trying to be touchy-feely, but
no, I have no problem.
I think you have to be willing to say, hey, I don't know, but I'll find out, right? Yes. And I think people respect that candor of just being real with somebody else. And I think what I've gotten better at as I've gotten older is the law is crazy, right? I mean, there's so much for us to know. I've gotten really good at telling potential clients going, I know nothing about that, and I'm not going to learn anything about that. But there are tons of professionals that you can go to find out about that,
I'm not that guy.
You got a tax question? I got plenty of people for you, but I'm not getting involved.
Yeah. I agree 100%.
So what do you think was, at least from the industry specific stuff, what do you think was the most important thing that you really kind of learned that made a difference in conversion, or, because I think who you are probably is a lot of what's attributable to your success so far in the space. Because, from my listening to your story outside of this podcast, I mean, you're growing in ISO. And I think a lot of that is really you, I mean, you're able to have agents, you're able to work with them, you're able to get knowledge, give them knowledge without fear of disloyalty. I think a lot of that's attributable to you. But when we get into like actually the industry itself, what do you think has paid the most dividends to know?
It's a great question. I don't think there's one specific answer.
Give me a top three.
Top three. I think being vulnerable is one. I think being honest, this all is part of one. Being honest, like you said, if you don't know it, don't pretend like you know it. People can see, most people can see through BS. I don't know if it's different anywhere else, but in the general areas that we work in the Midwest, I think people in general can see BS. So being honest, right? The ever growing technology, how quick technology is growing today compared to 5 years ago or 10 years ago, that's a huge one. Because if you're not up to date or willing to learn that technology, and you're just sitting there trying to, how are you helping people? Really? How are you helping them? What's
no? I get you, man. I truly believe that Alan Kopelman has been on our show. He's a big sales guy. He's been in the industry for like 30 something years. He's down in South Florida. This guy knows tons about just payments, right? He's got his own podcast and he focuses on different issues. We've been on his podcast and he made the statement. I don't know if we were on air or not, but I've repeated it many times. He's like, if you're not selling software, you're dead.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, like, and I truly believe that because every piece of software is intended as a business efficiency tool, and being a business owner and understanding efficiency and how, I'm not looking to replace people, but I want to automate as much as I can because there's no reason to not in the day and age that we live in. And so I think it's really important to kind of do that. I think that's where payment technology comes in, is it helps create, especially when it integrates successfully with whatever accounting software you're using, it can give you some really good metrics to see, where your money's going.
Yes, I want to come back to that because that's a really important thing. But really quick on number 3 would be the ever-changing industry of payments. I do not know 50%. Let's be real of all this payment. I'm learning something new, multiple things new every day, and it changes every day. So I feel like I'm constantly just trying to keep up with that shelf that keeps growing, and I'm trying to catch up, but it becomes difficult.
I tell my kids it's the only reason I come to work is because it's like, look, being a lawyer is like a job. There's a grind to it, right? It's not always. I said, name another profession where somebody's trying to kick your feet out from under you the entire time you're doing it, and really that's what we do. Yeah, there you go. Like that's something to beat you up. But I say, so it doesn't make it pleasureful. The really cool thing about the subject matter I work in is that it's changing all the time, and I'm learning all the time, and I actually enjoy learning. It's one of those things that I've always enjoyed. Is I think knowledge is power, and the more that you have of it. So I think that's important, what you just said, and not to be discouraged of, hey man, this is moving quick. Like, just do the best that you can to understand as much as you can.
I agree 100%. And if people that are helping you with that knowledge, there's some people that are willing to give it to you and teach you when you're asking questions. And there's also some people that are unwilling to, or give you, I don't know how to say it. They're not that they're not willing to, but they're keeping some of that information guarded. I dispose of that. I don't want that around me. I'm more than willing to help anybody, even if it's a competition. It doesn't matter. There's so much food out there. And if I can help someone, great. If someone can help me, awesome. But if you're guarding your information and you don't want to help someone next to you in the industry.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Like you can ask Jeremy. I give away a lot of time, and I do it on the front end with people, and I try to be really clear with them about what's going on and what expenses are going to look like, but I give a lot of time away, and I do it because I agree with you. You can't really live in that way where you have to sit there and hover up and like it just doesn't make any sense to me.
No.
Well, on the flip side of that, like because there is a subject matter I want to get into.
Okay.
On the podcast with you, but we'll get to that. I'm kind of laying my foundation here. I consider myself, I've never said this on air before, but I as a younger person, I listened to Howard Stern a lot. And I enjoyed Howard Stern, even the juvenile sophomoric stuff that went on.
That makes it fun.
And then, his shtick it gets old. But the one thing that Howard Stern, I will say that he is really great at is he's one of the best interviewers on the face of the planet.
Yeah.
And he gets things out of people and in his space, which I really enjoyed always. Like he's got to put out a best of, but he's got people that come on a show. I like to interview people because I want, like I'm genuinely interested and I want to know. So on the flip side of like, what are the things that have been most beneficial? What are the pitfalls that you've seen, that you've experienced, whether you brought it on yourself or not, that you think everybody should look out for?
Another really good question. Have somebody on your side like you guys, because from just signing a contract not knowing what that contract says will really hinder you and screw you. So I think that's really important. If you don't understand legal terminology, which I don't, I can somewhat understand it, but not really well, have someone look at it, because you are going to.
That's great. We didn't plan this. That's
not
great.
at all. I'm really serious.
I had a different answer totally.
I'm going to go.
I
got another one too, but I would.
All right, great.
I would say that's a big one, because if you do something in this industry and you actually become successful, and you don't have, your team that you're playing on, right? One of the ISOs that you're working with truly doesn't have your back, or there's terms in the agreement or something that's not cool, that's not beneficial to you. It should be equal to all parties. And we're all here to make money and protect ourselves. And I get that from every aspect. But there's also a lot of big companies out there that are greedy and that really aren't looking out for the agent. The agents that are out there are the good agents. They're trying to hustle and they're trying to make money and help people. And there shouldn't be big ISOs out there hurting anybody. So that'd be number one. Have a professional look at your contracts. Have a professional look at your what you're going to sign on to before you do anything. Number two, have someone to go to for information. That, like we were talking about before, I think that's really important. If you can't ask questions, and all you're left to is the internet, which is great, you're not going to have experiences helping you. And that can really hinder you. I mean, I was grateful enough and fortunate enough to have somebody by my side helping me with a lot of those questions. Because if I didn't, I'd be lost. I wouldn't know where to go, what to do. And I'd be selling to sell. That's it.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Payments Experts Podcast, a podcast of Global Legal Law Firm. Visit us online today at globallegallawfirm.com. Matters discussed are all opinions and do not constitute legal advice. All events or likeness to real people and events is a coincidence.